I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this is Graded for NXT and 205 Live, where I take a look at each show segment by segment and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. Now, it's a very interesting week. We have 205 Live, which is emanating, of course, from the UK, from London. We're going to have some NXT UK talent making the jump into 205 Live, and NXT this week is pretty hellish. So, without any further ado, hit the intro. We kick things off this week, as we always do, with 205 Live, and we go straight to the ring for the Fatal 4-Way match, which is Jack Gallagher versus Humberto Carrillo versus James Drake versus Mandrews. And before we get into the match, our boy Dimply Joe Humberto Carrillo comes out with a brand new entrance cape. Could he possibly get any sexier? So, bell rings, and James Drake immediately takes himself out of the action while the other three go hell for leather on each other. Seizing the moment after these guys have been knocking each other around for a little bit, Drake runs back in, attempt to pin on Gallagher, just rolls him up, but doesn't manage to get it, obviously, because it's that early in the match, and because he doesn't manage to get it, rolls back to the outside. Carrillo and Gallagher then are like, no, you're not doing this, mate. They go to the outside, they grab him, they throw him back in the ring, and Mandrews gets a hold of him and drives him to the outside. What was the point in that? Once back in the ring though, Drake takes it to Humberto. He's grinding him down, he's laying in strikes, and the other guys are on the outside. Whenever they try and get back in the ring, he's knocking them back down. The story in this one is that James Drake is incredibly tough and very opportunistic. Carrillo then manages to hulk his way up, he kicks him, driving him to the outside, and connects with a dive. Carrillo then goes to the outside, and Mandrews out of nowhere comes off the ring steps and hits a Rana. Then Drake and Mandrews go back and forth, with Mandrews eventually able to hit a massive DDT to wipe out Drake. Gallagher then reappears, and he's got his old friend William making his big return down all your drinks, his umbrella, and he goes up the ropes, jumps off, and wipes out all three men on the outside. Gallagher then hits a huge delayed vertical suplex, like it goes on forever. He's just holding him upside down and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then he obviously hits it. He goes to climb the ropes, and then Drake comes back in and takes control. Humberto then manages to stop Drake, kicks him, and all three men go off the top rope, hitting one of their maneuvers onto Drake. And then we get to the end of the match, and I'm going to refer to my notes because it all happens very quickly. Mandrews hits Stun Dog Millionaire and a double overhead kick, only for Gallagher to headbutt him, but because Gallagher's like stumbling back after the headbutt, Carrillo capitalizes, rolls him up, and picks up the 3. Post-match though, in a nice little touch, Humberto offers his hand, Gallagher hesitates, and then eventually shakes it in a show of respect. I'm going to give this one, unfortunately, a C+. There were some really nice little moments in it, but it felt just really painfully obvious they were trying to shoehorn as much time possible toward the NXT UK guys, and it just sort of left the match feeling a little bit all over the place for me. It's not necessarily a bad thing to promote the NXT UK brand. Of course, they need more viewers to watch it, they need to make it as big as physically possible, and there's a hell of a lot of great talent, including Mandrews and James Drake there. But for a Fatal 4-Way match, and with Drake just constantly wiping people to the outside, and it just became sort of a one-on-one, it was a little bit strange. We then go to a backstage pre-record, and it's Daivari, and he's in a tanning bed, and he's saying, I'm inside Tony Nese's head, while he's in the UK wearing himself out and relaxing ahead of our match, and I'm just gonna chill, and I'm in the US, and nothing's gonna happen to me, but Tony, don't get injured. We then go to a backstage interview, and it's Tony Nese, and he's defending his choice to come to the UK instead of sitting at home in the US and relaxing. It's all very heroic and babyface champion, and he labels Ligero as an international icon, which is really nice. Because as we know, WWE have manufactured lie after lie about him, including the fact that he's from Leeds, when we all know he's from Los Santos, Mexico. We all know that he had L at the start of his name, and they've just hidden that from us. It was just really nice of Tony Nese to reference all of this when WWE have just been disrespecting his heritage. We then go to another pre-record, and it's the Lucha House Party, and they're hanging out in a house. They contest the Singh Brothers promo from the other week where they're like, they snuck up on us, they took advantage of us while we were distracted, and they're like, no, we're going to rectify that, and we're going to beat you properly next week, and it's going to be great because it's going to be Lucha time. And then we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is Ligero versus Tony Nese in a non-championship match. Both men lock up, exchanging reversal after reversal after reversal. They're showing that they're evenly matched in terms of mat game. Eventually, Ligero goes up and over Nese in a nice little nod to Johnny Saint. He does like a Lady of the Lake, which is where the wrestler curls up into a ball and extends their hand. Usually this would go over into an armbar or something, but it doesn't quite get that far, as when Nese is trying to roll him around, Ligero rolls him in for a 1 count pin, and then Nese rolls backwards, and they just start exchanging 1 falls over and over again. Both men then break, stand back up, shake hands, and then they go and shake Lil Nature's hand just so he doesn't feel left out. But then Nese starts laying in the power, just dropping Liggs and laying in the blocks. There's a moment where it looks like Liggs is going to hit a dive, but Nese manages to get back in the ring, ground him, and lock in the body scissors. Liggs tries to roll him back a couple of times into a pinning predicament, which is quite cool, as it shows, he understands if he can get Nese on his back, he could get a pin. He does get out of the body scissors in a cool way though, even though the pinning predicaments don't work. He knows when he pushes Nese back, Nese has to push him forward in order to get out of the pin, and he uses that to push himself back up onto his feet. And this is the point where Liggs gets his second win, delivering a series of brutal strikes to Nese, including 1 big kick to the face that looked really nasty after dropping him on his ass. Nese then hits a spinning kick and almost picks up the 3, but when Liggs kicks out, he can't hide his frustration. He goes for his springboard moonsault twice, and Liggs moves out of the way twice. Liggs then sets up for the C4L, which is his springboard exploder DDT, but Nese rolls to the apron where Liggs kicks him to the outside and connects with a huge dive. Once back in the ring, Nese cuts off Liggs on the top rope, he hits him with a Rana, and then he goes for his 450, and Liggs kicks out. Eventually, Nese is able to drive Ligero into the corner, he hits the running Nese, and he picks up the 3. Post-match, Nese raises Ligero's arm in front of the hometown crowd, which is a really nice gesture. Ligero returns the favor, and then Aria Daivari turns up, attacks Nese, throws Liggs to the outside, hits his hammerlock lariat, stands tall with the belt. I'm going to give this one a B+. It's amazing to see somebody who has worked as hard as Ligero has over the past 16 years get to showcase his skills on such a stage. Again, of course, it's all about promoting NXT UK, but what a promotion this match was. Nese looked almost out of step with him a few points along the way. That's how good Ligero is. And in terms of an overall grade for this week's 205 Live, I'm going to give it a B-. It felt a little bit lackluster in the storyline department, but they're thousands of miles from home, so you can't really blame them for that. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Money in the Bank brings, but after Daivari stood tall with the belt, there is no way that he's prying it from Nese's hands. But that was 205 Live, let's move on to NXT. We kicked things off on NXT this week with the revelation that Percy is gone, and in his stead, we have Beth Phoenix. But she doesn't get to settle into her new role long before the war-raiding Viking Warriors experience comes down to the ring and has a promo. War Raiders say that they've been raiding Raw these past few weeks and they are far from done with raiding Raw, so with that in mind, they demand that William Regal come to the ring. Out comes Big Reeves and the Raiders say to him, we know that nobody else can take these belts from us, so we relinquish the titles. There you go, Big William. Regal is about to address the fact that the belts have just been relinquished, but he gets cut off by the Street Profits. The Profits take offense to the line that the Raiders just said, which was, they know that nobody can beat them, because after the last match, yes, the Profits lost, but deep down, the fans know and the Viking Raiders know that the Street Profits can beat them. And there's a really nice moment. It's when Ford says, deep down, we know that we can beat the Viking Raiders, and then Dawkins says, if that is your real name. The crowd go absolutely wild, and Rowe, or Eric, he completely wigs out, throws the microphone down, snatches the belt from Regal and screams, "Make the match!" I'm going to give this one an A. This really feels like the Street Profits have finally arrived in the big time. The crowd absolutely loved them. We then go to a rather hectic backstage pre-record, so I'm going to refer to my notes on this one. So following last week's main event, obviously with the Era making their way to the back, you knew that there was going to be some sort of argument going on once they got to the locker room. Cole is being held back by Fish and O'Reilly. He's furious with Roddy, literally screams, "I'm sick of this," like the S word, and then they bleep him out on that, which was really cool. He calls Roddy a bitch, and I think he even drops the F-bomb at one point, obviously bleeped again. Roddy then takes his shirt off, throws his Undisputed Era armband at Cole, and Cole picks it up and he's like, you know what, maybe you're not fit to wear this. Cole then swears some more, and Fish is like, man, just calm down, you can't just be saying things like that to him, you've got to really think this through. And we then go backstage to a live interview, which is with Cole and the rest of the Era, but no Roddy. He's asked whether Strong's even a member of the Era anymore and whether there's some sort of power struggle internally, and Cole's halfway through talking about how he is the leader, there is nobody else that's going to lead the Era, while security have been slowly running behind, and now there's a big group of people like rushing to something going on. While they're all running through, out comes Roddy Strong from the direction where security are running. It gets a bit standoffish, but Roddy's like, Cole, you were right, we're stronger when we're on the same page. So with that in mind, your little Matt Riddle problem has been taken care of, and he hands him a flip-flop, so it's obvious security have been running over to an injured Riddle. Roddy's attacked him, and he's back in the Era, and they're all a unit again. So I don't usually grade backstage stuff, but for those two segments, it gets an A. How can it not get an A? They've got me right where they want me, right here. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next with the Era. The pre-record of them arguing was wonderful. The language used was amazing. I think it fit perfectly. In the rare instances you're allowed to do that sort of thing, I think, you know, having the bleeping out of the swear words, the frustration, it made it so much more real. And the whole Riddle-Roddy situation is just too juicy not to think about. I want to know where that's going to go next. We then go back to the ring for Cezar Benoni versus Keithley. Benoni is quick on the reversals in this one, but Lee quickly grounds him, corners him, and then double chops his chest all the way to Australia. Benoni is able to capitalize though. He drives Lee neck first into the ropes and then takes control. And also one fan just keeps screaming, "Watch out, be careful, baloney." After this, it's all a very quick affair. Lee manages to maintain wrist control, he hulks his way up, nails him in the face, hits the spirit bomb after a pounce and picks up the 3. I'm gonna give this one a B-. It was a strong showing for Lee, and he needs strong showings because look at him, he's a monster, and Benoni didn't look too bad either. It was just a little bit short for my liking. It was too long to be a squash, too short to be, you know, like a real match. But I want Lee to get a monster push soon. I really want to see him with some gold around his waist. We then go backstage and Kathy is stood by Regal's office. She says that she's heard word from Regal that after the attack at the PC last week, that Shayna has to put her belt on the line against Io at TakeOver. Just as she's about to wrap up a piece to camera, the Sons turn up and she asks them, you know, what do you want with Regal? And they are pretty pissed that the Street Profits have just been handed an opportunity, especially after what they did to the Viking Raiders backstage last week. We then go back to the ring for Kona Reeves versus Kushida. Reeves uses his size initially to get the upper hand, but once on the mat, like, Kushida's just running circles around him, showing off how good he is at all of that grounding stuff. A couple of minutes into the match, Drew Gulak appears at the top of the ramp and he's staring at Kushida, and he's just looking a little bit like, This momentarily distracts Kushida and he gets planted into the corner by Reeves, who quickly takes advantage. Reeves then starts laying in these right hands like on the floor, and they sound stiff as F. Like they are just making like proper, just like hard, like packing noises like punches do. It's awful. Reeves then hits a snap suplex after he puts Kushida through the ropes and hits a running knee, and he almost picks up the 3. Reeves falls to the outside and Kushida gets on the top rope and hits a somersault plancher to the outside to wipe him out. Back in the ring, he locks in the hoverboard lock, picks up the submission victory, and Gulak looks disappointed. Just stood there, and Kushida points at him, and it's all a bit like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? I'm gonna give this one a B. Kushida is obviously still impressing, and I'm liking that Kona Reeves is getting a bit more screen time with more credible opponents. I'm loving the idea of Gulak versus Kushida. I want it now. I will give you anything for that match. We then go backstage, and Bianca Belair is for some reason recruiting Kathy to go to William Regal and ask when Bianca Belair's next title shot is, because I think William Regal is sick of talking to Bianca Belair about it. But they get to Regal's office and out comes Mia Yim, and Bianca's like, whoa, you better not have been going behind my back and asking for a title shot because I'm next in line. And Yim's like, no, you cheated to beat me last week. You know, you took a shortcut and that's not happening again. I asked for a rematch against you. And then Bianca's a little bit like, oh God. But then she goes into Regal's office and yeah, she's obviously gone to request again for a title shot. We keep it backstage and Matt Riddle is being tended to and he's talking to Johnny Gargano. Gargano comes walking off past the interviewer and he gets stopped. Gargano says that Riddle's going to be fine, but he's very angry and he does not want to see what he's going to do to the guy that did this to him. Johnny knows that he's next on the Era's hit list though, so before anybody else could do anything, he went to Regal and he's requested a rematch against Cole for the title at TakeOver. We then go back to the ring for Vanessa Borne versus Jessie. Jessie was a Mae Young Classic competitor. She was knocked out in the first round by Tainara Conti. This one's really quick, so again, I'm just going to refer to my notes. Borne locks her up, grounds her, stomps a hole in her, drop kicks her, chokes her on the ropes, and then Aaliyah hits her with a slap from the outside. Jessie almost picks up 2 sneaky pins though. She does. She gets a little bit of offense in, but Borne then hits her finish on her very quickly to pick up the win. I'm going to have to give this one a C because it's just a glorified squash. It was all it really was. But I'm enjoying this new side to Vanessa Borne. Her character's been a little bit one-dimensional so far, and I like the idea of this vicious, selfish, horrible, aggressive female wrestler. I think we need somebody else like that that's not quite like Shayna levels of it, but somebody who's a bit like, you know, able to just dial it up to that next level. And then we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is the Viking Raiders versus the Street Profits. I'm really sorry ahead of all of this. I'm still going to call them Rowan Hansen because Eric and Ivar, I can't do it. It's going to take me some time. So it's Rowan Hansen still for me, and hopefully it makes it a little bit easier for all of you at home too. But Dawkins and Rowe start things off with Rowe taking out both Dawkins and Ford. Raiders then try to pick up the quick victory by double teaming Ford, but Dawkins makes the save. Ford does manage 2 sneaky roll-ups here as well, almost getting the 3 both times. Hansen and Dawkins then trade cartwheels and Full Sail goes mental. Easy pop. And then Ford hits that huge leaping splash that he does onto Hansen, and he almost gets the 3. Hansen kicks out at 2.99999. And then out come the Forgotten Sons, who jump Hansen. Hansen does jump on them to try and wipe them out and save the match, but no, they jump him. The referee throws the match out. It's a schmoz, everybody. It completely devolves into a brawl, and then out come Birch and Lorcan, who also get themselves in on it. Hansen jumps on all of the guys on the outside, but Street Profits, back in the ring with Rowe, manage to hit him with their double team finish. They count their own 3 count like victory, but obviously the bell's already rang, so it doesn't make any sense. Like, Mara's like, is it supposed to be a moral victory? And then they run off up the ramp just to the back. Raiders then absolutely murder Birch and Lorcan, and they stand tall with their belts to close the show. I'm going to give this one a B-. It's setting up a beautiful looking 4-way, but I can't say that it wasn't a little bit annoying at ending in a schmoz, especially sort of that quickly into the match. I was hoping that we'd get to see a little bit more of that match before it devolved into anything crazy. It was still very entertaining though in the parts of the match that we did get to see as an actual match, and you know, the Street Profits look very strong, so yeah, it was alright. And in terms of an overall grade for NXT this week, I think I'm going to give it an A-. The level of storytelling this week was insane, and as I said, the Era have got me right here. That storyline is like the hottest thing in wrestling for me right now. I want to know where it's going, and I can't wait to see this 4-way if it is indeed what they're trying to set up. It's obviously what they're trying to set up. Why would they have it end that way? Come on, Sam. Jesus. But yeah, that match should be absolute, pure, unbridled chaos. But that has been graded for NXT and 205 Live. Let me know what you think in the comments below. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.